A dressing gown in April? What is the matter with you?
It's cold downstairs in my house at the minute, Jez.
Well, come.
It's all open plan down here, so
All right.
yeah,
And you all let Shelley put heating on?
absolutely not.
Not in April.
No,
Joy?
it's off now. It's off now till November now. That
Good lad. Good lad. It's funny, really. I mean, we can chat about this afterwards, but it's funny. I love your pictures on, I don't know where I see them, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, when you've been out. I can tell you've been out all night. Your eyes are all bloodshot and bags under your eyes, and you've got this massive, big, round fish on in your arm with, with your boxer next to you.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't need warmth, do we, us lads?
it's another thing.
Joel, you look like you've got Burnley Suicide Squads, like the balaclavas that they wear.
No. I tell you what it is, Jez. It looks like a CP hat, and he looks like he's going to Millwall away.
Is that what they call CP?
Yeah.
All right. Do you know what it stands for?
Crown prosecution.
Oh, we can't say. Right, enough of that. How you doing?
Hey, Jez, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Roger.
CP Company's an Italian brand.
All right.
It's quite smart, actually. In all fairness,
Yeah.
I don't think Joe Martin will be spending that kind of money on clothing, though, knowing him like I do.
No. Or even carrying out the same activities that those types of people that wear them do.
Mm.
I don't think Joe will be running around slashing the opposition fans.
Oh, I wonder where you were going with that.
On the subject, did I ever tell you about that time I saw Frank at Luton away?
Go on.
We went to Luton, I would say around the year 2000, something like that. Matt Marquis was at Bedford University, Johnny was at Luton, or vice versa. Burnley were playing Luton on the Saturday, so we went down on the Friday night, stayed over, went to the game on Friday. Frank wasn't with us. There was a load of ruckus after the game, Burnley fans and Luton fans scrapping, and Frank had his hood over his forehead to about there, a scarf over his mouth there so you could just see his eyes, and he was at the back of the massive crowd of Burnley fans, nowhere near the Luton fans, at the back of the crowd with a bottle in his hand, getting ready to
Shout,
throw it or
shouting the
shouting or whatever.
loudest.
Yeah,
Shouting the
yeah,
loudest.
yeah, yeah.
Well, first of all, Joe, I'd like to ask how do you know it was him if he got that much of a
He said
distraction?
hello to me.
All right. And then secondly, he might have been
You might have been what, Jez?
trying to stop the hassle.
Yeah. Could have been, to be fair. Yeah,
Anyway.
unlikely, but yeah.
Gordon, Gordon, send more house to save the house.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Housecast, Lowerhouse Cricket Club's podcast, which has been going for donkey's years. I've lost track of how many years we've been going, or episodes, but I'm really excited now. The sun is, well, it's been out for a while around here. The pitch is looking great. And the nights are getting longer and the weather's on its way. I know it's a bit of a break coming up, but it's so exciting to get to the start of the season. Watching a friendly on Saturday, was an absolute pleasure. So we've got a good guest on tonight, a real special guest. He's been on a few times before. We're really going to try and get into his ribs and talk about how the season goes, how last year went, how he feels about this year. It's the Lowerhouse captain, Ben Heap. So, Ben, I'll come to you first before I go to the horse. How you doing?
Good evening, Jez. Yeah, very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Yeah, I've had a busy few weeks. I've been away on a big trip, but got back Saturday to watch that friendly. Good workout against Little Lever.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's everything you'd want from a friendly just before the start of the season. You know, both innings went pretty much the duration. Everybody got a bat and a ball and some time out in the field. So yeah, good preparation, really. Nice set of lads, little lever. So yeah, good all round.
He looked it as well, and we'll come on. I'll go on to the other horse now, and we'll come back to the game. But it did. It looked a great workout for you all. I think they just marginally won it with a dodgy LB at the end, and Johnny Whitehead refusing to come back out to bat. But anyway, Dooch, I saw you down there on Saturday. You okay?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Good, good. Are you still got that tingle of excitement, even though you're quite a bit younger than me now? Season's round the corner.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Saturday, just I wasn't down all day on Saturday, but the brief time that I did spend there was definitely an appetite wetter. Definitely, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Joe Martin, welcome and thanks very much for helping out. Just talk us through how things went over the weekend. And
Things went okay. It was a good run out. Good to get 45 overs under your. Oh, how many overs? Well, we did 45 under your belt. Yeah, I missed one and it hit my toe. But it was a lovely day, and it's raining now. But we've got the covers on, so that's good. I think Jez is frozen. Jez is back.
thanks, Joe. Thanks for your input there. Sorry about that. I've just got a few Wi-Fi and data issues. I have to log into my phone to get back on it. So anyway, thanks very much, Joe. Do you have any comments about the game and how that went, Joe Martin? I want to talk about the pitch really, but your part in the game at weekend on Saturday.
I mean, I didn't have a massive part in it.
Well, you stumped for 45 overs.
Yeah, I did okay. I did okay stumping. That was fine. And then just missed one at the end.
Yeah, were you out? Didn't it look dodgy?
Oh, did it? I mean, it looked pretty straight to me.
It's down as bold on scorecard, so it's out.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Well,
Joe, let's just talk to you a second before we go back to Ben and talk about the season.
yeah,
The pitch,
yeah.
the square, the outfield. I know we've had some, you could probably ideal drying weather with quite a lot of sun. It's not been baking hot, but there's hardly been any rain for probably 3 or 4 weeks, and the main factor is all the wind that's been there. It's dried it out. What was it like, the actual track?
The track was fine.
Yeah.
But it is very dry.
Right.
It's very dry. Yeah. But as I said, it's raining now, and it's supposed to rain this week, so I think it'll benefit from that. There's been a lot of work done on the pitch over the winter with drainage, sand, which has had a really big impact on. So it doesn't turn into a mud bath.
Yeah.
At the minute, with everything that's been done on it, but it's also because it's been so dry. It's probably not had the grass growth that it required. So there's a few bare patches,
Right.
And I described it as dusty on Saturday, but I think it's sandy more than dusty.
Right.
So I think with a bit of rain, it'll green everything up. So I think it'll probably benefit from it. But it's not a difficult position, but I think we will benefit from the drainage and everything being better this year. And it might be a small cost to the quality of grass on it. But that might come in, over the next couple of years too.
Okay, it's a good insight for us because we were both there at the end of last season doing little bits of work around helping Stan. Has the square been had a lot of extra drainage put into it or extra loam?
No.
That's just the outfield. The square's
the square's actually in terms of drainage, like I say, it's probably fine. I think because of the way the ground slopes, I think that there's probably it gets a lot of water that sits on it and runs over it. And obviously the square's actually pretty flat when you think about it. It's not like church where the whole pitch is slanted. So you've got these kind of gradual gradients, I guess, as you go through. So that hasn't, but the actual outfield has had a lot of work done on it. The only work that we do on the squares is stuff that we do at the end of the season.
Okay.
Which, so yeah.
And I mean, it'd be interesting to see how the outfield does go with that, because there was a lot of money gone on it, gone into the the actual extra drainage and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's pushing the sand through it all. Let's see how that changes, certainly for when it does get damp and how quickly it can get away.
We've already seen the benefit, Jez, to be honest with you, in after the bonfire. So typically after the bonfire, when it has been wet, there is a lot. It's it's very muddy and not great conditions. You wouldn't be able to play a game of football on it. Never mind a game of cricket. Whereas this year, you could tell that obviously people had been stood on it, but if you were to walk on it, it was still firm. It wasn't muddy, and you could do whatever you kind of planned to on it, I think. So I think there's already been that benefit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's important because then it adds to the amount of time you can spend on the outfield, and you're not, like you said, making it into a mud bath on a Thursday before a first team game just by getting it on to try and cut it or to get on the square. So no, I mean that's really encouraging, and I think a good shout out to Stan and Dave Waddington and the other members of the staff who pull all the ground together. There's been kids football on there all winter. There's a lot of junior cricket going to be played on there, so it's a big job.
Can I say, Jez, what the Waddo and Anne Cochran and Ben's mum have done really brilliant work on the surrounds of the ground as well. So they've added like different flower beds in. They've put a really nice feature in next to the scoreboard with like logs and old machinery that's got flowers in it that looks really nice. And all the people that have helped with painting the ground, Keith Hill, Paddy's done a bit. The ground looks really well. It looks really well, so it's great.
No, that's brilliant. Great work from those volunteers for, as we keep saying, the community club. And I think it's worth mentioning, just before I come back to you, Ben, about the pitch and about the prep for the season. It was amazing. I got down there at 2:00 and I'm walking on, and I remember when I was playing, there wouldn't have been that many people in July when we were playing Burnley. And this is a friendly in April, so it was so nice to see. And clearly, the club will benefit from that, whether it's financially or for the surrounds and the people who come to watch. So that's fantastic to see. Long may it continue. Ben, come to you first of all. Really, just about how you prep for the season's gone, including the ground and your liaison with Stan, and then also the practice and the training you've managed with the team. How's that gone?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the practice. So from December, I think, we've had sort of group sessions with Dan over in Preston. So sort of 3 lads having a couple of hours with Dan on a sort of rotation in one evening. Your usual suspects, myself, Henry Cottam, Paddy Martin, Charlie Gansler. There'll be 1 or 2 others thrown in there that I've missed out. So those sessions were running at the start of the year to try and I guess make some technical improvements and mindset improvements. And then we got together as a group in March. I think we trained 4 Thursdays in March, consecutive weeks at Queggs Grammar School Indoor Centre as a first team and second team. and they're always good sessions. They've been good fun this year. We have just the right amount of numbers there, an excellent facility, and each one for some camaraderie has finished with a five-a-side game of football, which has gone down really well, which has been good crack, because the sessions have been 2 hours long. And that can be a long time just to do cricket. So yeah, we've had about 20 minutes of football, and that's gone down well, I think. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. I think the sessions have worked really well in that people kind of had the space to work on what they wanted to. They weren't sort of kind of regimented that, you're going to bat for this amount of time and face these bowlers. So people had kind of freedom to do what they wanted to improve. Bits of fielding as well. That's always good. Because that can get missed in the winter. And as you say, good to get the football out as well. Shows there's still life in the old dog, Ben, for some of us.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. As you know, and obviously don't get injured, as old duffers who would always think, "Oh, crap, you're playing football. What if someone boots someone?" But no, it is good to
interestingly, Jez, at the end of one of our games, when I used to watch you as a kid, and we used to have the big football games on the pitch, you kicked me the hardest someone's ever kicked me, and I was about 10.
Well, you must have done something.
And in the same game, cause we scored at the last minute. Cos poured a can of Carling over my head. It was one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life.
You've still not got over it, have you?
No, I think about it every day.
I can tell. So before we go on to the conditions, Ben, and the, maybe the ground setup, etc. You've mentioned, the pro Dan there. He's in the UK almost full time, I guess now, and he's played in the friendlies, and he's carrying out all the coaching and training. What difference does that make, first of all, for you as a captain, but also a batter and a cricketer when you have someone like him involved?
Yeah, well, it's invaluable really to have your pro all winter, contributing to not only the group sessions that we did at the start of the year, but the sort of first team and second team training. Having his input, he's so valuable. Everybody respects Dan so much. Everybody is, how much understands how much of a good teammate he is and a team man he is. So just having him around in general without having loads of input is good experience and exposure for the lads, really.
Yeah. And as you said, he's so experienced and so so obviously such a great cricketer, but he's also got that winning mentality and that that the mindset of how you can get the best out of players, even if it's just that extra 1 or 2%. Dooch, have you had much on the winter side and being involved with the players and talking through things with Ben and Dan?
No, is the answer to your question, Jez. Not massive, not masses. Me and Ben have spoken quite a lot in the last sort of week or so as we start looking at teams and things, but not massive amounts over the winter. We did have a couple of meetings over the winter just at the back end of the season, just as a bit of a download, and then a couple of weeks ago, heading into the new season, just to sort of see where everything sat. But that's been pretty much it, really.
Yeah, and I suppose if things are going okay, and I'm sure, probably come on to this next, Ben. I'm skipping around a little bit before we get back to the pitch. If there is any, players maybe that aren't happy at our place that maybe want to move on, or we're going to get some new players in, that you would get involved in that. Has there been much of that this winter, Ben, of players wanting to come and play for Lowerhouse, or any of our players wanting to move on anywhere, whether it's proing or just move on?
We've certainly had conversations with 1 or 2 players over the off season, which Dan has supported the club in sort of being involved in those conversations. Unfortunately, nothing's come to fruition for one reason or another. But yeah, it's definitely sort of really handy having him around to support in those conversations with the experience, as you touched on, that he's got.
Yeah.
and he's always a good sounding board for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that continuity of the professional staying the whole winter and being around and being at the end of the phone or a 20-minute journey away has definitely helped, I feel, keeping the squad together, because it's no secret that we're blessed with some very talented amateurs, and it's no secret again that other clubs in other leagues have certainly sort of had conversations at various stages about those players going on and being club professionals, which they may well do in the future, and they'd have our blessing, because it's a good experience to go through, which I've done myself. But yeah, we're very happy to have kept everybody. We have tried to get one or two through the door, and it's just not come off. But we're more than happy with the squad that we've got.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear, and I suppose as Dan moves forward, with his the end of his cricketing career and any ventures he's got up and running, then we can all help with that, and I'm sure he'll be very successful in whatever he does. Ben, then let's just go on to the the ground and the facilities and how things have gone. We've obviously become a lot more successful off the field with regard the running of the club and the monies that are coming in. Are you noticing that that's going to, first of all, senior cricket, but also junior cricket, the revenue that we're getting in?
Yeah, absolutely. And putting the games on as well. The cost of just putting a game of cricket on is going up and up and up, isn't it? Like everything else in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think success breeds success, doesn't it? Off the pitch and on the pitch, the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, without a doubt, and you can see that the money that was spent over the winter and the way we have paid coaches that come externally that come in and help out with whether they're 5-year-olds or the seniors. So it does bode well, but I'm not wanting to be doom and gloom. We've got to keep that going. We've got to keep the process going that we've had in place, that Stan, I think, started really as the junior cricket right through to what Matt Stanley does with the social side. Your thoughts on the pitch, the way that's gone? It's extraordinary how dry it is, compared with when you think of the start of last season, it was just a lake. Are you comfortable with the way things are looking around the ground? And I know we can't change a lot, but do you liaise with Stan and you're happy with the way things are going?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the difference in terms of the work that we've had done. It's been scarified and we've had drainage sand put down, which I believe we hadn't had done either in a very long time or ever.
Yeah.
But obviously, being a keen outdoorsman myself and a keen fisherman, I'm obviously fairly in tune with the weather, and we've had a really, really dry winter overall. I think I read somewhere it's the 6th driest March England's ever had on record.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had next to no rain whatsoever. So I'm going to be interesting to see, if we do get some heavy showers, how that's going to affect the ground and what sort of the reaction is. Because at the minute it's very, very dry. There's quite a few bare patches out in the outfield, so it will be interesting. But yeah, it's just been a significantly drier winter than last year. I mean, if you remember rightly, we had to put the season back. Never mind the pre-season friendlies, we had to put the season back 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's right. And whilst we can't get away from, whilst everything's going fantastically well with Stan and all the equipment, we are an amateur club, and it's interesting. You watch counties, even in the middle of the summer, they have. They absolute saturate the square, in the middle of a dry spell, and then they can control its growth, and then they cover it when they've had enough. And we can't do that. There isn't enough water in the in Burnley to what Old Trafford put on theirs when they're when they put in a wicket to bed or whatever. So, but it's good to see. It's out of our hands, but it's good to see the ground looking so well. I'm just going to ask you in a minute, Ben, about just a very quick recap on last year, just for the listeners. I know we spoke about it separately. just a recap on last year. But before we move on from the ground and the players or anything from yourself, Dooch?
No, not really. Just want to let the listeners know that they've not tuned into Radio 4 Gardener's Question Time, and that they are actually listening to Lowerhouse Cricket Club's podcast.
It is interesting, though. I love it.
We're a victim in the past of having good weather, preparing the pitch and the square well for weekend, and then not being able to cope with a heavy shower properly on a Thursday and Friday. So if the new drainage, sand, and the work that's been done helps us cope with that from that point of view, and then that'll be great. It will be interesting just to see where they've played football. Handles the rain.
Yeah, well, we'll see that. So, Joe Martin, anything from you around the pitch or the recruitment and the training before we move on to 5 minutes on last year?
No, I think everybody's done a really good job, Jez.
Thanks very much, Joe. Ben, last year finished third. You know, you didn't really get close, or we didn't really get close to catching Burnley after the probably two weekends to go. Your assessment of last year in a couple of paragraphs?
We obviously set off out the traps a little bit slower than we'd like, but losing your professional that you had signed 2-3 weeks before the start of the season is far from ideal, as many clubs have been a victim of recently. It probably took us 6 or 7 games to sort of get an understanding between the group of how we're going to approach our cricket and our game plans moving forward. So I thought we were good value for third, but in all honesty, the teams that finished above us probably deserved it.
Yeah, fair assessment, and I would agree with that. From what I watched from the sides. Any observations, Dooch? I don't think you can take much umbrage at that.
No. Although we did win the Worsley Cup, so let's not just focus on the negatives, as it were. We did have a very successful season by anybody's standards. Third in the league and a Worsley Cup win. Yeah, we'd have liked to have done slightly better in the league, but as Ben said, there were mitigating circumstances, and we'll be better prepared this time around.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to come on to the cup win because it's still in everyone's minds and memories of how, what a great game of cricket that was. And again, credit to Todd for the way that was played, and the people that watched that will remember it forever. So moving on to this season, Ben, Ramsbottom have been promoted along with Walsden. Church and Enfield have been relegated. First of all, as an experienced player who's played in the league before the promotion and relegation, an independent view, not biased because you're a Lowerhouser, how do you feel the promotion and relegation is working?
I can only comment from a team that's since this has been brought in has stayed in the top division. So I don't know how obviously feel who've been relegated or playing in Division 2. Although if you do read the previews, the clubs that are in Division 2 this year seem pretty excited by it and the sort of standards of it and strength in depth. But I'm all for it. I think it keeps things interesting, gives clubs a chance to rebuild. You look at Church's preview for this season; they seem excited by the chance of competing at the top end of that division and sort of rebuilding. And it keeps fixtures entertaining and interesting at the back end of the season when it's involving those clubs that are down the bottom end.
I'll just echo that, Ben. The competitiveness has certainly increased, since going back, whether when I played or even before it changed. I just do have concerns, and I'm not being because we can't go back to let's all play in one league, and there's nothing to play for 75% of the teams after the end of June. But I just do, the ex original Lancashire League clubs who are at the lower end of Division Two. I just hope they continue to keep pushing it and going in the right direction, whether it's through juniors, whether it's through recruitment or money that can come in through fundraising or the bars, that they can continue to carry on. And I think that is the case. I did fear for around the likes of East Lancs and Bacup and Nelson, but I do think they come round a little bit, that it might come full circle. Have you a view on that, Joe Martin? I mean, you've only probably seen it since, I'm sure you would remember it when it was one league, but have you a view on how it goes and if it can be improved?
I mean, I don't think it can be. I don't think it can be improved. I think it's quite a good system that they've got now. I think perhaps I also like what a lot of the clubs are doing too. So I think they're investing heavily in junior sections, trying to build from the bottom rather than importing players in, which is something that I think I'm really passionate about, but it's and the club in general. So I think it works well. I think Ben's. I'd say I think previously in when it was one league, if you would rebuild as a club and finish at the lower end and then try and work from there. It's something that we did in like 2009, 2010. I'd say for some of the clubs in the top division, I get the impression that they probably feel that they can't do that now without being relegated, which I think which will potentially pose interesting questions in the future about how clubs stay sustainable.
Do you think that that'll lead to a more sort of short-termism view in terms of the players that they field?
Yeah, I think so. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
That I think that if they want to stay in the top division, they can't afford to try and
throw four youngsters in.
Yeah. I mean, because we did it in 2010 from memory when probably half the team were pretty young, and I think we finished probably 11th or 10th maybe. And if you want to stay in the division, you can't do that now. So I think that's in the top division. I think that would be my concern. But on the other side of that, it's our job, and certainly my job, along with other people, to produce players that are ready to play in that top division and play in the first team. And you don't have to produce 11 of those cricketers every year. But I think putting things in place that you can identify your premier junior cricketers at the club and giving them the support so that they feel confident to work through the fourths, thirds, seconds, and then when they're in the second team and then moving into the first team, that they have the skills and the confidence to not freeze and actually be a confident first team cricketer as soon as you go in. And that's something that we're looking at now, is trying to identify those young players and really give them the support to let them flourish when they become first team cricketers.
Yeah, it's a really great point, and we could debate it for ages. And I'm sure a lot of listeners would be interested, because is it, again, I accept what you're saying. You're going to play different players than you would have done if it was one league. But at the end of the day, I watched a little bit of Ramming last year, and there's some of the sides in there, and it is good competitive cricket. So if you had to, I know no one wants to get relegated, but if you had to drop down for a season or maybe two, but then you get the youngsters in, they become 16, 17, 18, and you come back up. I don't think that's a bad way to be.
No, I mean, but that's what the model is designed to do, right? Isn't it? In that, I guess it depends on what your priorities are as a club. Whether, as Dooch says, that kind of short-termism is the policy that you apply, or whether you think maybe long term of how can you make sure that your club exists in 20, 30 years time, then that's the other way, and it might come with fluctuating league positions. But that's something that clubs have to decide.
I do wonder what I mean. I can only speak on behalf of Lowerhouse, but I do get around local cricket and watch other leagues at times. But I do wonder what the financial ramifications will be for a club that gets relegated as well. So, thinking about Lowerhouse, if that was to ever happen, how that would affect the club financially. I mean, we're a well-supported club, aren't we? We have a lot of members and we have a local community that come down and watch. But, for example, if we weren't to feature in semi-finals, finals days for a number of years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what sort of financial ramifications that would have on the club? So that's something else that
you're right, Ben.
adds to it and adds to the pressure of potentially staying in that top division.
Yeah, we could debate this. I'm not. I think again we can only talk about Lowerhouse. I'm not sure it affects us that badly the way a lot of our members are now, and the socials in winter. And if we remember going back, and I'm sure Ben and Dooch would remember this, Bacup, really successful club, dropped off the ladder of winning trophies and being the best amateurs and best pros, but their social club carried on, and it still does to this day. Now, I think Nelson or East Lancs or some others might be a little bit different. So it's a great point. I sometimes wonder when I walk around the ground, Ben, and there's maybe 500 or 600 on watching you on a biggish game, and I only know about 5% of all the people that are on, and they're there for a family day, which is fantastic. So, I mean, it is an interesting subject, and I'm happy. 5 or 6 years ago, I thought there were a couple of clubs ready for going, which would have been so sad, but they haven't, and I think those are pulling through a little bit. So, fingers crossed that they come through as much as they do, as much as they have done over the last year or two. Ben, let's move on to this year, the playing staff that you've got, and the potential that there is in place, and how the likes of Charlie Gansler from last year, from the cup final, Tom Walker looked in good nick at weekend, Henry Cottam, a great player. Then there's obviously you, Joe Martin and Paddy, Johnny White, who are the top end. It sounds a really exciting squad you've got there. I know you can't give too much away about team selection and plans, etc. But what are your views on the up and coming season?
Yeah, I'm quietly confident. I think, Jez. With a tough start on paper, undoubtedly. But yeah, quietly confident. We're going to benefit from knowing who our professional is. What he's like as a bloke, what he expects of the lads, what we expect of him. We've got an identity and a style of play that's well embedded now. So there's not many questions really. Whereas this time last year, you won't believe what was
there were
going
only
on
questions.
You won't believe what was going on behind the scenes to get everything in place. So yeah, we're very happy of where we're at. Would we have liked 1 or 2 through the door potentially? But to have not lost anybody.
Yeah.
And I think Paul Stanley was telling me at the weekend, don't quote me on this, but we won something like 16 or 17 out of our last 18 games in all cricket. So we finished very, very well. We have a method of play that teams are going to be trying to unsettle. And I guess it's, adjusting to anything that the opposition bring as quickly as we can, and just backing up how we finished last year.
That's really the conversation, or your comments there, Ben, are really interesting, because you mentioned twice we have a way of playing we have got a plan that's in place. So my question to you would be, are you flexible? Can you adapt? If things aren't going right, is there a plan B or C? And do you work on that?
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like we've, less so in the Northern game. We were all a little bit wet behind the ears and fresh for that one. But at the weekend, I think if you look at the start of our innings and where we were, albeit they were coming more from one end, but where we were after 10 overs or so wasn't an accident, shall we say?
Yeah.
But I think we showed in the cup final, that when we are under the pump, we are flexible. We've got a preferred way of playing, but yeah, I think the cup final itself is the model for Plan B, most probably.
Yeah, and you've got those players in there that can do that, that can switch and can change. We're not giving secrets away, but we can see this yourself and Johnny and obviously the pro can adapt to anything. Charlie did his job. Tom Walker obviously is a great cricketer, and then even I know you're on the call, Joe, but Joe Martin batting then in the bottom two or three. He's had hundreds, and he's he got a 40 in the friendly at Northern. So we can see that it's there on the bowling front. Ben, have you? You will obviously have plans in your mind. I thought Tom Walker bowled with some pace at weekend. He seemed to put an extra 5 yards on his run up. Ran through quickly. And was getting down the other end quick, sharpish. Is that something? Because he's been in Australia, I believe, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been playing cricket most of the winter out in Australia. Interestingly enough, I thought he bowled very sharp for an amateur in his second spell from the park end into the wind. He bowled, he bowled sharp in that second spell. Probably lacked a little bit of rhythm and tried too hard in his first spell. But he's an exciting prospect, isn't he, Tom? I still think he's 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
Is that right, Joe Martin? Is he?
I think so.
21? Yeah, he's only a young man anyway. He's only in his early 20s. So the sky's the limit really in terms of league cricket for Tom. And the way he sort of dominated with the bat. In the second innings, he's sort of really promising, exciting for the club. But yeah, from a bowling point of view, I'm very happy. We've got Toxia saying who's going to be more involved this year. And when the conditions suit, he gets good players out. Joey Hawke's committed for the first few months of the season. He's working in the police now, but he's used up a lot of his annual leave to make sure he's available. Tom Walker, like you say, probably one of the quickest amateurs in the league these days. And Charlie Gansler has worked really hard this winter on a couple of technical, I'm not going to say flaws, technical improvements. And the ball's come out of his hands really nice early season. So, and then you throw Paddy and Dan into the mix who've got, hundreds of league wickets between them. I think we're in a good spot, especially with the ball.
Yeah, I like that balance. I really like the good seamers that you've got there, varying pace, like you said, with Toxa and with Tom. But then, Paddy just seems to get better and better. He's like a fine old wine at the moment. Is Paddy? It just seems to be maturing and maturing, and hopefully he carries on with that. As far as the fielding drills go, I've always enjoyed watching the drills that you guys do and how you manage it all. Is that still being varied and everyone enjoying that?
Yeah, definitely. That's down to the youngsters keep pushing us old boys on, isn't it? You've got Henry Cotton, Charlie Gansler and Tom Walker, all sort of really enthusiastic youngsters who like to be in the field and get involved in the fielding and raise the standards in the athleticism. So yeah, I think they're on our coattails and keep pushing us old boys on.
Brilliant. You mentioned about, a difficult start. It is. I've just been going through Darwin at home, Norden away, Littleborough at home, Middleton away, Walsden at home, Burnley away, Rammy away. But the more I kept looking, Ben, they're all good sides. I don't think you can ever say that, well, that's a given and they're going to finish here. It's another exciting season. But it does bring me on to the T20s that then are all scheduled to be played. You've obviously got the Worsley Cup that's there. You've got the Singleton Trophy, and we're also in the LCF tournament. What's your views around the amount of cricket that you're being expected to play? You personally, and also the team.
It's it's a lot of cricket. I'm not going to lie, Jez. I think I worked out the other day that if we were, and I'm not jumping the gun here, I'm just talking hypothetically, that if we were to win every game and be successful in sort of the back end of May, June, I think we could end up playing something like 12 games of cricket in June. So that's a triple header every weekend. And, if we're being brutally honest with ourselves, it's a tad too much. It becomes a second job, if I'm honest. That's a part-time job after you've done a full week at work for most of us. And getting up on a Monday morning after one triple header to go to work is hard enough, never mind 4 on the bounce. I'm not suggesting that's how it'll be in the end, but if we're successful, that's what we'll end up doing. Having said that, we do enjoy it. We do enjoy playing good competitive cricket. If I was Charlie Gansler, Henry Cottam or Tom Walker, I'd be absolutely loving it at their age. And life's slightly different for those three than it is some of the other chaps, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's a little bit overkill, if I'm honest. I don't know what the answer is. We want to play in every competition. We want to play in the Lancashire knockout and try and be one of the best teams in Lancashire. But yeah, it's just a lot of cricket and it can weigh you down mentally and physically it's very difficult. But what I will say, and I'll give credit to everybody in that team, there's not one person that's turned up this year out of shape, and many of us losing several tens of kilos, not just to get ready for cricket, but just to be in a better place all round and feel better about yourself. But everybody is coming in tip-top shape, so nobody can sort of question the effort that the lads have put in their own time, in their own gym time during the winter to make sure they're in the best possible shape to win games of cricket for Lowerhouse.
Yeah, and I guess that is, as you said, it's not just the physical side, keeping away from injuries, the mental side of it as well as to how that is managed. And also, I will come back on to another point I want to bring up about rotation. But it's interesting that you talk about the pressures that are there. I mean, Dooch, I'd like to bring you in here just as an ex-player, an ex-captain, very successful captain who's seen a lot of things. Do you oversee the players and do you get involved in that pressure side of it, or what's your thoughts on how that is managed and could be managed better?
No, I don't, Jez, in all honesty. I talk to Ben all summer. My only other conversation with the players is if I'm ringing them to ask them to play or to tell them they're not playing. The pressure thing is a really interesting point, and it's a good job Gav's not on this call because I'm going to mention golf, and he hates it. So I was watching Rory in the golf last night, and you could see him physically struggling to do what he was trying to do just because of the size of the task, the weight of the pressure. And I was watching it thinking, as an amateur cricketer, I obviously have no idea what he's going through. But I just wondered, Ben, pressure and certain situations. Can you think of any in your career, maybe more as a batsman than a captain, but captaincy as well, where the pressure has inhibited you or has been so great that you feel like it's got the better of you or you've thrived? We've talked on this podcast before about your record in finals, which is ridiculously good. So you might have a particular approach to help you manage that, but I just wondered if you could relate to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, how much I can relate to that sort of directly, I'm not too sure, because we're all different, aren't we? And we all process things slightly differently. And obviously, he's playing golf and he's winning a sort of extremely prestigious championship. But for myself, just from my own experiences, I've always found that the big cup games actually have freed me up. In all honesty, yeah, as a sort of single one-off event, where when you come off that field, you can't leave anything to chance. And I'm not suggesting I've always got this right and I haven't made mistakes in cup games, but yeah, I do find personally the cup games do free me up, because in my head, you might not get a second chance, so give it your all. And I feel like it's the way to victory is almost simplified and mapped out because it's a one-off game.
Yeah,
I think where I have come a little bit unstuck in the past, and felt the pressure and been a victim of looking too far ahead before anything's happened is in big league games actually. It's difficult to be specific to one game, but yeah, I think where I've maybe got bogged down and dug a little bit of a hole for myself is in big league games, where you start to think about, well, how many games are left? There, so such and such a team are away at so and so today, and a lot of factors that are out of your control can then start to cloud your vision. But as a sort of single one-off big final, semi-final game, I'm not saying I haven't felt pressure and found it, easy or anything like that. Far from it. But I guess I found it clearer. I found the game plan clearer, and what I'm going to try and do. I found clarity in the knockout games. But yeah, big league games certainly felt pressure. So yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it is, but also Ben as well. And I know you're on this, and we used to be too scared to talk about this, or thought it was we were being. You've got to think about people's mentality. Certainly, young kids who insist that I'm going to play through this. I'm going to battle through it, but are struggling like mad. And I know you would do that. And I know Dooch would do that. And there's other people. I would help out where you can. But it's also identifying that, isn't it? And if someone's really struggling and you can see it because of the pressure or because of the work that they're doing, and then the pressure of cricket, that needs to be borne in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do recall in the cup final last year actually, when Henry came out to bat with me, sort of having that conversation with Henry and reinforcing my mindset, even though I got to 50 and had a rush of blood and threw it away. When Henry came out, the message from me was, look, Henry, we might never, hopefully we do, but we might never ever get here again. So let's give it a go. Let's put bat to ball, and leave nothing to chance, and come off having, and that was the message at half time. Go out and try and dare to win the game. Don't worry about losing it, but go and have a go and dare to try and win the game. And Henry batted brilliantly in the final, and played a massive role in it. And he really flourished and put bat to ball that day and got us back in the game.
Yeah, and no doubt, without him even realising it, would have done him a world of good going forward. But in the same vein, Ben, if you see his eyes are spinning, he doesn't really know which end of the bat to hold, and he's out after 3 balls and it ruined his career. You've got to see that as well, and the aftermath that can cause. And I know you do, and I know you think about that. So really interesting. Joe Martin, around the pressures. I know you don't like playing the LCF and the T20s. Not really a cup of tea, but you've played so many games. When you look back over however many years that you've continued, can you see that the pressures are there? And we all handle it differently, I know that, but can you see it's there?
Yeah, and you certainly feel it. I think one of the things that probably doesn't get talked about a lot is that since certainly since I've been involved in the first team, we've pretty much competed every year for the league, for the cup, for the T20. And it's I know it's amateur cricket, but it means a lot to a lot of people, and it means a lot to the players. And it's quite a mental load, I'd say, especially to kind of keep coming back every year to be to try and be um as as good as possible and try and be the best, I guess, in your discipline. Um, and I've spoken to Ben about it and spoken to a lot of people. I've struggled quite a lot over the years, whether I thought that maybe skills are waning just a little bit and you're not quite as good as you used to be and you don't move quite as well as you used to. But there's I'd say the thing that I always try and go back to is I still, and obviously I don't do a lot of batting anymore, but certainly with my wicket keeping, the 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 thrill that you still get when I'm cat when I just when I catch a ball is still drives you on, and it's still kind of so it's still um on those really tough days when something goes well, it just gives you that little bit of impetus to say maybe I've still got something to offer. And there are always challenging moments, always difficult moments, but I think it's it, it benefits from the people that are around you, and we are.
Yeah, and I think the way you've spoken there, Joy, is commendable, and it just shows a difference. Different people have different aspects and different ways of looking at it. You've always been that your glass is half empty, and I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
do
fair.
I didn't do that right. But that's when you need the likes of Ben and probably Dan and me and you walking around the ground for three circuits to for a bit of reassurance to make sure that you're all right. And I know you pass that on to others. So it is a real interesting subject, and it's one that we don't stop talking
I
about.
honestly, yeah, it's very reassuring to have those kind of people.
We're a competitive bunch as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that might sound obvious, but I think, yeah, we do play to enjoy it. We can be a bit harsh on ourselves and down on ourselves on the days where it doesn't go well. But I think we enjoy the competitiveness more than anything. Being a real competitor and trying to put yourself against the better teams and trying to improve. I think that as a first team would probably be one of the sort of defining sort of points, really, that we week in week out we enjoy being competitive. We enjoy being together as mates and as teammates. But even though we all come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different creeds, once we all get together, we're a competitive bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see that, certainly in the tough games when it's coming to crunch, there is a good team spirit there, which is, we've always had at Lowerhouse, I think, in whichever side it is, which are your juniors right up to the first team. So no, it's a really good topic, and I've said we must keep talking about those sort of things and people who are struggling a bit. There are people there that can help you, and those that can help and who are the leaders and who can look after people, we know that they'll be there to help out. Come to you now, Ben, with your last comments around the start of the season and how you see, let's hope for good weather, and how you see that going through for us all, spectators and you players. How are you feeling? What you're going to give to the spectators?
Yeah, I mean, I think we showed last year at the back end, especially, that we play an exciting sort of front foot brand of cricket, and we look to continue that. Really, I think it's exciting to look at the likes of Henry Cotton, Charlie Gansler, and Tom Walker, another year older, another year wiser, backed up with an explosive pro in the side. It should make for an exciting summer, and I'm sure we'll be there or thereabouts. Nothing's guaranteed. you need a bit of luck along the way. We're up against some good sides in that top half of the first division. You know, and I just keep encouraging the lads in the team to keep believing in themselves. You know, don't care too much what it looks like, and go out there and express yourself. And you know, treat every game like a cup final, and go out there and give it your all.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben. Duke, anything before we wrap up the cricket side of it and let Ben go off and get his dressing gown on?
No, nothing from me. Look forward to seeing as many of you down at the games as possible over the next few weeks.
Great, thanks. Joe, anything from you before we wrap the cricket side up?
No. Lovely to get to go over that.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Ben, thanks ever so much. And as Duke just said there, there's nothing better that, you know, when we get into June and the weather's, you know, getting good and we could all sit around us spectators and watch it. People really appreciate the effort you guys put in, and I know you appreciate the support that you get. So thanks very much for coming on. I think we'll do it again, maybe a third of the way into the season, maybe get Dan on with you and just talk about how the season's going. We're going to try and do 2 a week. So, Ben, thanks very much for coming on and giving us that insight, and the best of luck to you and all the lads for the season.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Ben.
Ben.
We'll see you soon. But now we can let our hair down with the draw.
Wonderful stuff. Here we go.
Got your balls ready, Joe?
They're ready. I mean, I've had my coat on, so they're warm.
That's good. Before we start, just a couple of pointers we've had. I think it's possibly from the AGM, albeit a couple maybe before it. We've got 4 new members. I think I've mentioned one before, but if we can just go through. Shane Higgins has joined. I mentioned previously, but Shane's number is 34, so let's listen out for that. We've got some regular spectators and socialites who go into the club on a regular basis. Louise and Steve Dole, who've decided they want to join, so they're number 36. Anthony Heaton is number 94. Anthony used to play down at the club, and his dad Jimmy. And then also Michael Thomas, who just lives on the end of Thornhill, I think it is. He's just requested a number, so he's got number 52. So we're getting some extra numbers in. Anyone else wants to join, then please don't hesitate to email me or message me or any of the other committee members or housecast hosts, and we can get you a number. We're up to 177 for numbers, Joe. There are about half a dozen or 10 that are free in between it. So give us the first number. This is the March draw, and the first prize is £100.
Number 99.
That should be my number, really, shouldn't it? 99.
Let it go.
Ice cream and all that.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very welcome win. This young lady's not been in the draw for that long, probably about 8 months or so. A legend of a dad who's down at the club. It's Eliza Cotton.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Excellent.
She's had a recent birthday as well.
Eliza.
Yeah. So happy birthday from the 100 Club, Eliza. That's the thing.
All right, that's good. It's worth mentioning. Just been on a tour with Lancashire. She's part of the Lancashire Ladies cricket section now, but went over to India. So great work, Eliza, and I'm sure your dad will let you have the money, even though he does pay for this for the number. The next prize is £80, Joe. If you can give us a number.
Number 108.
108 is a lad called John Puttock. He's been in the draw for donkey's years. I don't think he'll mind me telling this little story, but I'll bet it's 25 years ago. Stan used to run a draw at in the police for the police social section, and it was exactly the same format as this. In fact, we copied it for Lowerhouse, and John said he wanted to join the police social section draw, and Stan gave him the details for the Lowerhouse Cricket Club draw, and he's been in it ever since.
That's excellent, that.
I think he knows now because he won a few years ago and I had to explain it, but he thought he was paying to the police social and he wasn't. He was funding us. So well done, John. I'll make sure you get your 80 quid. Next one. 70 quid it is, Joe.
Number 16.
Well, another lad that's been down there for donkey's years. We don't see anywhere near as much of him as we should do, but it's John Proctor.
Oh, excellent.
Legend.
Lovely win.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah, we need to get Procky on this. We've asked him a few times, but he keeps saying, why do you want me on?
I saw Ted Whittle the other day.
How was he doing?
Yeah, good. He was walking his dog. I saw him at the top of Goodshire.
Did you chat to him?
Are either of you friends with him on Facebook?
I was just gonna go into that, dude. I was just gonna go into it. Did you chat to him, Joe?
Yes, of course.
And he was all right. Everything was because he's had bad hips, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he said he'd had 3 hip replacements.
Yeah, I think that's it. And he has struggled with it all. But I know this is what Dukes was just going to mention. I just see his posts pop up on Facebook, and he's so funny.
Yeah,
he could run probably some sort of a sitcom just from his posts. Have you seen where he's been this weekend, Dukes?
Yeah.
The Benidorm Punk Festival.
And he's with a fella who's got blonde, sparky hair.
Yeah.
It's like a side Mohican. Mohicans go from the back to the front. This fella goes from like ear to ear, Mohican. Massive blonde sparks. It's brilliant.
And they're about 10 inches on each spike. And the weather has not been great. And they showed a video of people were throwing like an inflatable ball at his head, trying to get the ball to pop on his spike. Well, Ted's still in the draw. Let's hope his number comes out next. Last prize in the March draw, please, Joe, for £50.
number 77.
Number 77 is free. That's a free one that someone could have had. So give us another one, please, Joe.
Number 11.
For 11. Oh, no. Gracie.
Oh, excellent.
Good lad. That's Paul Grace, one of the newer committee members who helps runs all the socials. A lovely lad. So well done, Gracie. £50. Thanks very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Gordon, send Morehouse to save the house.